Hey, what's up, everybody? I am obviously doing a live Q&A here, the Wednesday lunchtime Q&A. And so if you have any questions, let me know. I am going to start off. What I've been doing is in my groups, I'll post, I'll just, take fitness questions, and then I'll say, like, hey, I'm going to answer this on the live. So I'm going to start off with 2 questions I got today, and if you have questions as we go, feel free to jump in and comment them, and I'll answer. All right, so Chris, he asked, besides personal preference, does it make much difference in regards to muscle growth working out in the morning, 6 a.m., for example, compared to the evening, 5 p.m., for example? Does either time frame provide a better chance over the other for better growth, or is it just hard to compare like that? So the answer to that question, really, so basically he's just wanting to know, like, is it, speaking specifically with muscle growth, is there a benefit to working out in the morning or working out in the evening? And what I'd say to that is really the biggest bulk of it is going to be just when you feel strongest, so like I'll use myself as an example. I work out in the evenings. I've tried both. Like I've tried working out in the mornings, and what I personally find in the mornings is that I have significantly less energy and strength. So as a result of that, I can't push as much weight. So I'm not going to get as much of a result, right? I'm not going to be able to stress my body enough to really make it build up stronger, muscle wise. So like I'm not going to build a lot of muscle. Like if I can, if I can go into the gym, at 6 p.m. and I can bench press 275. I am not joking when I say if I try that same weight in the morning, I'm probably going to bench like 250. It was just a drastic strength, just a drastic drop in strength for me. And there are a bunch of variables that can go into it. One of them, I'm just not a morning person. I am not energetic in the morning. I probably still even look a little groggy right now. Like I'm just not like a morning person. But another big thing is, you've been sleeping, you don't have a lot of calories in you, you don't have a lot of carbs, so which means like the glycogen, which just, is basically energy storage, is not full. You don't have much to kind of like push from, you know what I mean? You don't really have much food in you. So, now I will say some people, there are a lot of people out there who do enjoy morning workouts, and they have a lot of energy in the morning, things like that. They don't experience some of this. So if that's you, how I would answer that question, scientifically, I have not seen any studies or anything like that saying that like people who worked out at 6 a.m. versus people who worked out at 5 p.m., one gained more muscle than the other or whatever. So scientifically, I have not seen anything like that. But what I would say is, what it really comes down to is when you feel strongest and like most energetic and most able to like push the weight, because what it really comes down to in the gym is, you want to build muscle, you need to push your limits, so if you bench pressed 135 last week, you don't want for 5 reps, you don't want to go in there and bench press 135 for 5 reps again. You either want to go up to 140, which is what I'd recommend, and try to get, try to get 5 reps of that, or you need to try to get another rep, something you need to do more than you did last week in either weight, reps, or both. So you want to be constantly pushing yourself, and whatever time of day you feel most able to do that is when it would be the best. Cool, Chris. I'm glad that makes sense. All right, next question here, and if anybody has other questions, just comment them and I'll answer. Carter said, reading some stuff online, someone said that lighter weight with more reps produces leaner toner muscle, while heavier weight and fewer reps are for building mass. Is there any truth to this? No. So let me just make sure I clarify and understand the question. So someone said lighter weight with more reps. So we're looking at something like I assume something like an 8 to 12 or even a higher, 12 to 20 rep range, versus heavier weight with lower reps, something probably in like the 4 to 6 rep range. So they're saying that the 8 to 12 is for lean tone muscle, and 4 to 6 is for building mass, so like bulkier. No, so like I'll say this, what it really comes down to, first of all, a lot of that depends where you are in your journey, right? So like if you're just starting lifting weights, you haven't lifted weights before, you haven't lifted weights in years or whatever, and you're just really kind of like new or like fresh, like getting back to weights, I would highly recommend sticking to those lower reps with heavier weight. And when I say 4 to 6 reps, I don't mean you just go in there and you just crank them out. That's what most people do. When I've trained somebody, almost always they'll go in there, they'll put the weight on, and they'll do 4 or 5, 6 reps. Rest for maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, 90 seconds if they're if they're really trying to get their breath back, and then push it. If you can do that, if you can rest that short of a time and then push the weight again, typically you're not doing much to affect your strength change. Okay, so like on the higher reps, so like think about this. If you're going in there and you're able to, like if you're going in there right now, let's say you haven't lifted weights and you go in there right now and you just are able to crank out like 12 reps of something, that you can already do a lot with that. You know what I mean? Like if you can easily crank out 12 reps, rest for 60 seconds, whatever, do it again, you're not affecting change in your body. Like you're not giving your body enough of a stressor to make a change. So the formula is stress plus recovery equals adaptation. And if you stress your body too much and you don't give yourself enough recovery, you're not going to see the results you want. If you don't stress it enough, you're going to see even fewer results because you're not giving it a reason. You know what I mean? You're not giving it a reason to change. So what I would recommend with this for most people who are new to the game or getting back into it after a long time is to go in, focus on those low rep ranges, because that part of the question is kind of true. You are going to build more muscle mass and strength with heavier weights that challenge you. Where that 5th rep, you shouldn't be about to, drop the weight on your neck or collapse in a squat or whatever, but you should be grinding like that 5th rep. It should be pretty challenging. You shouldn't be able to just like breeze through it, and then be ready to go again in 60 seconds. Like you should need a little bit of time to recover from that. So what I would recommend, anybody kind of new to it, I would recommend staying in that like 4 to 6 rep range, heavier weight, lower reps. Personally, what I believe is, and there's a lot of good science behind this, is those higher rep ranges, 8 to 12 rep ranges, things like that, or even higher. It depends on, so like if you have already built that solid foundation of strength, right, that's when you're sometimes are going to want to go ahead and add in some of the higher rep range stuff. Like, you can't, again, like once you've gotten to that point, like you come in here and you're not strong at all, and then you get up here and you're a lot stronger. Now all of a sudden what you can do with 8 to 10 reps is going to do 8 to 12 reps, whatever, even more, is going to affect more of a change, because it's a lot heavier weight than if you were able to just come in here and do it, down here when you didn't have any like real strength or muscle mass. So when you're coming in here and you're adding, those kind of things in, it's a good thing to do later. I will say the one exception to that, a couple of exceptions to that are like a few different body parts. So like what I just said applies to like all the main lifts, your squat, your deadlift, your bench press, your overhead press. I do like, I will start somebody off fresh with higher reps like that with like some isolation movements. So like my squats, Steve John, I just chimed in there, and he gave me some advice a while back to do like 25, 30 reps on my calves, and that's when I started to see my calves grow. I'll do 8 to 12 reps on like some arm stuff, preacher curls, things like that. So some of the accessory movements, you will do that. But this question of fewer reps are for building mass, fewer heavy reps are for building mass, and more lighter are for building like lean tone muscle. That doesn't really make sense. You don't really have, you've got muscle. Yes, there are a couple of different muscle fibers types, but you've got muscle. You don't have lean muscle and then like big muscle. You know what I mean? So you want muscle and you want strength. So that's what I would recommend, is going in there. If you're new to the game, 4 to 6 reps on the big lifts. You can throw in some of the accessory movements with the higher rep ranges, like 8 to 12 or even higher. But with those big things, with the big lifts, I would definitely recommend sticking to the lower rep ranges with heavy weight that actually challenges yourself, not almost kills yourself, but challenges yourself, and then pushing that up every time you do that exercise, not every set. If you go in there and you're doing squats for 135. Stick with that. If you do your warm-up sets and then you get to 135 and you're like, okay, that feels, that 5th rep was pretty tough, do that for the rest of your sets, 2, 3, 4, however many more sets you're doing. And then the next time you come into the gym to do that exercise, then you want to up the weight. So if you did 135, go ahead and make the jump to 140. If 140 feels easy, go ahead and jump to 145. So that's you'll see a quick climb in strength when you first get into this. It's a whole different story if you've been doing it for a long time. Then you can start adding some of the higher rep stuff. But the fact that like higher rep is going to build lean tone muscle versus lower rep building like a lot of muscle mass, I don't see much of any credibility in that argument. I'd be interested to see where you heard that. All right, anybody have any other questions? Let's see. Chris, funny how you mentioned the amount of reps per weight. Worker at my gym advised me to lower my reps from 15 to about 10. For some reason, it's not letting me open the rest of that. And increase the weight for some muscle increase. I asked them about that, saying this if you're frequent in the gym. Yeah, and I would even, depending on what kind of exercises you're talking about specifically, man, I would even drop it lower. I mean, 15 is if you're talking about your big movements like squat, deadlift, bench press, overhead press. I mean, there's really no reason for you to be doing 15 reps if you're trying to get, if you're trying to really like put on strength or muscle mass, which I know you are. So like you don't want that. That's the opposite of what you want to be doing. What I would suggest is dropping it even lower than the 10 reps and going like 5 reps until you build a solid foundation of strength. You are going to experience much more difficulty in the right ways pushing 4 to 6 reps than you are if you're able to go in there and crank out 10 reps, 15 reps. It's just not enough of a stress on your body to affect the change you want to see. Carter, no problem, man. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if there are any follow-up questions to it. Chris, upper body machines. I assume you're asking like what I think about upper body machines. My answer is always going to be if you can do free weights, do them. You're going to build a lot more stabilization. So like if you go in and you do let's compare a bench press to a chest press, like the chest press machine. And just for anybody not clear on what he's asking, like a free weight is literally something like you could pick the bar up and you could walk around the room with it. You know what I mean? Or dumbbells or whatever. Those are free weights. Something on like an upper body machine is usually something that is like it's on a track, so it's like usually it's like the stack of weights that are on the pole, and as you push or pull or whatever the movement is, the weights go up and down, and so the weights are on a set range of motion. They're like fixed to the machine. So what he's asking is like, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but what I assume he's asking is like, are those like a good idea to do? I would always go with free weights if you have the option. Okay, so like there are a lot of reasons for that. One of which is going to be you're going to have to stabilize that weight, and that translates much better to real world strength. If you have to go pick up the lawnmower and put it in the back of the truck, or you have to go, you have to, I don't know, push something off of somebody one day, or like pull yourself up, like hanging off a cliff. I'm being extreme now, but if in real life, like daily stuff that you do, moving stuff around, you're not moving stuff around that's like on a fixed track where you don't have to like stabilize it. You're having to stabilize it. So this stuff like translates much better to real world strength. It's like actual useful strength. And if you don't believe me, go in and do 200 pounds on the chest press, and then get a spotter and go over there and try to do, and if that 200 pounds is tough for you, and then you go over there and try to do 200 pounds on a free weight bench press, you're not going to be able to do it because it's not the same thing. Now, I do like machines for certain people. Number one, if somebody's just so intimidated by the weights, the free weights, that they're pretty much either going to do the machines or nothing, I would definitely recommend the machines. There are certain injuries, that you're having to rehab and come back from and things like that sometimes the machine is a better idea than the free weights. But outside of that, not much. You know what I mean? Like outside of those two things, I don't really see much of any other reason to use machines instead of free weights. And typically, like if you're talking like a Planet Fitness setup, those things a lot of times are set up in a circuit. And again, circuit training is the whole red light, green light thing. It's like, all right, go. And if you're doing that, you're just not resting enough to really affect enough change. You're getting better at cardio, you're getting better at endurance, but you're not doing much in the way of building strength or muscle. Thanks for that information of comparison between free weights and machines. No problem, man. Hope that makes sense to you. Don't use those machines anymore. All right, anybody have any other questions before we wrap it up here? All right. If you see this later and you have questions, message me or comment on the video. Just comment, and I'll be happy to answer it in the comments. Happy Wednesday.